Bring in our political editor, Andrew Clennell. Now, Andrew, as we mentioned, we're waiting for Premier Daniel Andrews to speak this afternoon. We'll bring that to our viewers live. But understandably, when you're talking about this level of shutdown for business, attention turns to the fiscal support. And the question is it sufficient?
Yes, it appears clear now, Kieran, that the rules around JobKeeper 2.0, announced just 13 days ago in Canberra by the Prime Minister and the Treasurer, are about to get thrown out the window. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg is now working on a package which would mean you would have to show a 30% decline in turnover in just one quarter as a business rather than both the June and September quarters in order to qualify for JobKeeper from October onwards. It was obvious on the day of the announcement that that package was just not going to be enough as far as Victoria was concerned, and it is now clear that billions more on top of the $86 billion committed by the Commonwealth for JobKeeper will be required, and we will see a deficit in the October budget in excess of $200 billion. So the government apparently planning to change the JobKeeper rules, Kieran, for the entire nation, not just have some sort of Victorian provision. Seems a bit strange to the extent this change could benefit businesses in WA and South Australia, for example, where there is no virus, as well as businesses in Victoria who've been shut down because of the virus. We know announcements are shortly coming from Dan Andrews on further businesses shutting today, and there has been a document circulate in media circles, Kieran, a Financial Review report here suggesting that construction sites, manufacturing plants, car dealerships and the majority of retail stores are set to be closed. So, according to this report, the construction sites that will be closed for business are residential building sites yet to open, non-residential building, construction, heavy and civil engineering projects, whereas those who would remain open are residential construction that are in the middle of being worked on and critical infrastructure, that sort of thing. So we're expecting a long list soon of what's open and what's not, and certainly a lot will be closed as they look to stem the virus. Now, the federal government wants the Victorians to stump up with some economic support for business and jobs, and I believe that will be forthcoming. Might be waiving payroll tax, maybe some more pandemic leave payments or cash grants. The Victorians are working on plans. The federal government and the unions, as I understand, have struggled to come to an agreement on paid pandemic leave, with the government not wanting to stump up too much for that and not wanting employers to put themselves at risk by stumping up. We had a letter that's just been sent, co-signed by the ACTU and the Business Council of Australia, calling on paid pandemic leave, and it calls for 3 provisions, including some form of payment by the government to employers to allow them to pay this. So here we go. Amend the Fair Work Act to incorporate a leave entitlement consistent with what the Fair Work Commission's done in relation to aged care awards. And then it goes on further, provide for reimbursement to business to facilitate the leave entitlement, such as the mechanisms used for JobKeeper or paid parental leave payment appear appropriate, funded by the federal government, and where necessary, the relevant state governments. And this could be the big thing where Victoria could chip in, I guess, Kieran. We've obviously had some smoke signals out of the federal government and some direct quotes from the Treasurer. They want Victoria to chip in. Now, Josh Frydenberg, he came under pressure, the Treasurer, from the 3AW broadcaster Neil Mitchell this morning on this very thing. The suggestion he should tell businesses right now what the government's going to do to help them.
But it seems we're working through a lot. When do people get some answers? There's fear out there. And by the end of today, it'll be even worse because people lose jobs, industries closed, businesses closed. When do they get some answers?
Well,
I've been arguing, as you know, for weeks that Victoria is a special case. It's a basket case, special case at the moment.
Neil, as you and I are speaking right now, $1,500 payments are being made to Victorians by the federal government. Nearly $14 billion has already gone into Victoria from the federal government. JobKeeper will see $100 million a day continue to go out over the next couple of months into Victoria. JobSeeker, which is for those who have lost their job, does not have mandatory mutual obligation requirements for those in Victoria. So those programs are in. Money is being delivered right now.
Now, here's the federal opposition leader, Anthony Albanese, putting on the pressure on paid pandemic leave about half an hour ago in Sydney.
People going to work and therefore spreading infection has a cost to it. And we're seeing the cost in terms of economic cost with the Victorian shutdown. Make sure that no one is put in a position of choosing between looking after their health and looking after their family.
Now, here's the same broadcaster as before, Neil Mitchell, putting Josh Frydenberg under pressure the day after JobKeeper 2.0 was announced less than 2 weeks ago.
Victoria, unlike the rest of the country, is going to have more people needing it, but they're going to get less, aren't they?
Well, at the end of the day, we can't sustain indefinitely.
Can't you look after Victoria a bit more, though?
But we have, Neil, as you know, it's just one element of a comprehensive suite of measures.
There's no economic assistance other than what the rest of the country's got. Other than what the rest of the country, there's no special deal for Victoria, is there?
Well, the point of these programs and the way that they're structured, they will be of particular benefit to Victoria.
So this afternoon, after Daniel Andrews, I believe Scott Morrison will hold a press conference in Canberra. No doubt he'll be asked about this sort of thing. One point the federal government is keen to reiterate, or for me to reiterate, is that JobKeeper 1.0 goes until September 30. So if you're a shutdown business in Victoria now, you can apply to have your employees go on that scheme now. But like I said, you didn't have to be Nostradamus to figure out what is going to happen here in terms of more JobKeeper support. There's a bit of a pattern from the federal government at the moment. They play hardball on relenting. The PM waits till the last minute, repeatedly says it's not the job of the Commonwealth to intervene and provide support, says business has to play their role, banks have to play their role, the states have to help, and then he puts in the supports anyway. We can see that from the $200 billion deficit coming up. I've estimated so far, but say it'll grow at $184 billion. Here is Josh Frydenberg on Sky News this morning to that point, saying the Victorians have to chip in as well.
When it comes to other support, we'll obviously work with the Victorian government. We want them to share the load. It's got to be matched support, but we do recognise there will be an ongoing need in Victoria, and that's why we're having those conversations.
Now, Kieran, one advantage for Victoria here is that there is a Victorian Treasurer and Federal Health Minister, so they can see the anguish Victorians are feeling firsthand and be strong advocates to the PM on that.
Very good point. Yep, the member for Kooyong, the member for Flinders, they know all too well the torment that many are feeling right now. I think that's a tough time.